identical, identical, identical.
This word means being exactly the same as something else, with no differences at all. Here's a sample sentence. The twins were identical, with matching blue eyes and blonde hair.
Identification, identification, identification.
It's when you figure out who or what something is by looking at its characteristics or features. Here is a sample sentence. The police officer asked me to provide identification such as my driver's license and passport before allowing me into the restricted area. This sentence demonstrates how the word identification can be used in context.
Identify, identify, identify.
To know who or what something is, based on its characteristics or features. Here is a sample sentence. The detective was able to identify the suspect in the security footage by matching his distinctive tattoo with one that had been previously reported. This sentence demonstrates the verb identify being used to mean to recognize or determine the identity of someone or something.
Identity, identity, identity.
It's who you are, what makes you special, and how others see you as being different from everyone else. Here's a sample sentence. The concept of identity has been explored in various forms of art and literature, highlighting the complexities and nuances of self-discovery. This sentence uses the word identity to refer to a person's sense of self or their individual characteristics that define who they are.
Idiom, idiom, idiom.
It's an expression that has a special, non-literal meaning. It's a phrase that means something different from what its individual words say. Here's a sample sentence. The phrase break a leg is an idiom that means good luck, often used to wish someone success before a performance or competition. In this example, break a leg is an idiom, a phrase whose meaning is different from the literal interpretation of its individual words.
Idiomatic, idiomatic, idiomatic.
This phrase refers to expressions that have a special, non-literal meaning that's different from what the individual words mean on their own. It's like having a secret code that only makes sense when you know the context or tradition behind it. Here is a sample sentence. The phrase, kick the bucket, is an idiomatic expression that means to die, rather than literally kicking a physical bucket. In this example, idiomatic refers to phrases or expressions whose meanings are not literal, but rather figurative and culturally specific.
Idiot, idiot, idiot.
This word refers to someone who is very foolish or doesn't think clearly, often making silly mistakes. Here's a sample sentence. He was considered an idiot by his friends after he accidentally superglued his shoes to the floor during a party. Note, this sentence uses idiot in a somewhat informal and colloquial way, implying that someone has done something foolish or silly. In more formal contexts, it might be better to use a milder word like foolish or careless.
Idle, idle, idle.
This word means not doing anything or being still without any activity or movement. Here is a sample sentence. The car was idle in the driveway all day, its engine silent and still. In this example, idle means not running or operating, often because it's not being used.
Idle, idle, idle.
A person or thing that is greatly admired and often worshipped, but isn't real or perfect. Here is a sample sentence. The pop star was considered an idol by millions of young fans around the world.
Ignite, ignite, ignite.
This means to start something, like a fire or an idea, so that it can grow and happen. Here is a sample sentence. The spark from the match was enough to ignite the dry kindling, quickly turning into a roaring fire. In this example, ignite means to set something on fire or cause it to start burning.
Ignorance, ignorance, ignorance.
It's when someone doesn't know or understand something that they should. It's a lack of knowledge or awareness about something. Here is a sample sentence. The politician's response to the crisis was criticized by many as an example of ignorance, as it seemed to ignore the obvious consequences of their actions. This sentence illustrates how the word ignorance can be used to describe a lack of knowledge or understanding about something.
Ignorant, ignorant, ignorant.
This word means not knowing or understanding something, often because you haven't been taught or learned about it. Here is a sample sentence. The tourists were ignorant of the local customs and accidentally offended some of the villagers with their loud behavior. In this example, ignorant means lacking knowledge or understanding of something, in this case, local customs.
Ignore, ignore, ignore.
To pay no attention to something or someone, and not think about it at all. Here is a sample sentence. The teacher tried to ignore the students' constant chatter during class, but it was difficult to focus on the lesson. This sentence demonstrates how the word ignore can be used in context.
Illegible, illegible, illegible.
This word describes writing or handwriting that is hard to read because it's messy, crooked, or doesn't make sense. Here's a sample sentence. The ancient manuscript was written in an illegible script that made it impossible to decipher the author's words.
Illiterate, illiterate, illiterate.
This term refers to someone who cannot read or write. Here is a sample sentence. Many people in rural areas were illiterate and struggled to access basic information about healthcare and education. In this sentence, illiterate means that these individuals cannot read or write.
Illuminate, illuminate, illuminate.
This means to make something brighter or clearer, often by adding light or understanding to it. Here's a sample sentence. The candles on the table will illuminate the dark room, making it feel cozy and inviting. In this sentence, illuminate means to make something brighter or more visible by providing light.
Illusion, illusion, illusion.
It's something that seems real, but isn't actually true. It tricks our minds into thinking something is one way when it's really another. Here is a sample sentence. The magician's trick was so convincing that it created an illusion of him levitating above the stage. This sentence demonstrates how the word illusion can be used to describe something that appears real or true, but is actually not. In this case, the magician's trick creates a false impression of him floating in midair.
Illusive, illusive, illusive.
This word describes something that is attractive or appealing, but may not be real or true. It's like a mirage. It looks good from far away, but when you get closer, it disappears. Here's a sample sentence. The magician's trick was so elusive that I couldn't figure out how he made the coin disappear. In this example, elusive is used to mean difficult to detect or understand, which is one of its possible meanings. However, it's worth noting that the word elusive, not elusive, is more commonly used in English to convey this meaning. Elusive actually has a different meaning, which is related to being attractive and appealing, but not necessarily real or genuine. For example, the elusive promise of eternal youth was touted by the beauty product company, but it seemed like just another marketing gimmick. In this case, elusive suggests that something appears attractive or appealing, but may not be as good or reliable as it seems.
Illustrate, illustrate, illustrate.
This means to show or describe something with pictures, diagrams, or words so that people can understand it better. Here is a sample sentence for the word illustrate. The artist's vibrant paintings were used to illustrate the story in the children's book, bringing the characters and settings to life. In this example, the verb illustrate means to provide visual representations or explanations that help to clarify or make something clearer.
Illustration, illustration, illustration.
It's a picture that helps to explain or show something, often with text nearby. Here is a sample sentence. The children's book featured beautiful watercolor illustrations that brought the story to life. This sentence demonstrates how the word illustration can be used in context, highlighting its meaning as a visual representation or depiction, often created by an artist.